The Jedi Master Luke Skywalker in Star Wars canon is clearly one of the most powerful Jedi that we have ever seen. With that said though, Legends continuity goes absolutely mad with the power levels, especially with Luke specifically. And although we saw him showcase exactly what he was capable of at the end of the second season of The Mandalorian, we thought that it warranted a video talking about the true power of Legends Luke Skywalker, somebody who George Lucas said without a doubt is the most powerful Jedi that has ever lived. Luke Skywalker, who George Lucas also confirmed reached the full potential of the Chosen One, what his father was always meant to be. So in this video, essentially we'll be answering two major Star Wars questions. How powerful was Grandmaster Luke Skywalker? What is the potential of the Chosen One? And in order to illustrate and comprehend the true power of Grandmaster Luke as pertains to Legends continuity, we'll be taking a look at some of his greatest feats, and specifically identify exactly what makes each of them so impressive. So stick with us today on our journey as we take a look at the true potential and the greatest Force feats of Luke Skywalker. With the release of The Mandalorian Season 2, at the very end we got the taste of Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight and what he looked like during this period. Of course, for those who has a deep extended lore knowledge, now referred to as Star Wars Legends, they would be familiar with the grandness of Luke's ability when he became the Grandmaster of his own newly revised Jedi Order. We've also been hearing reports that we could likely see more from Luke Skywalker in the coming years from Star Wars, with a rumored appearance in the third season of The Mandalorian, and potentially rumblings of Luke Skywalker's own series with a brand new actor portraying the Jedi Knight. So with that on the potential horizon, let's go ahead and take a look at what we could expect from Luke in the coming days, as well as his raw potential in the Force as pertaining to Legend. To begin, let's talk about his power within the Force itself. One thing to keep in mind is that in Legends, things tend to get pretty wild when it comes to the Force, and many Force wielders are much more powerful in the EU than they typically are in canon, which is also the case for Luke. Luke always had an affinity for the Force even when he received little formal training in its ways by Yoda and Obi-Wan. Despite this, he quickly caught on to training despite his age being far more than is normal for Jedi trainees, who typically start very young. This is of course due to the fact that Luke Skywalker inherited the potential of the Chosen One via his father Anakin. It took quite a bit of training on his part, mostly alone, since he was one of the last remaining Jedi, as he scoured the old ruins of Jedi temples in an attempt to scrounge up any knowledge that he could. Luke also found schematics for a lightsaber in Ben Kenobi's hut back on Tatooine. Despite all the opposition against him, Luke developed into one of, if not the most powerful Jedi to ever exist. Luke was extremely adept at telekinesis, able to move any object without having to reach out physically. In the middle of a massive midday meal food fight at the Jedi Paxium's mess hall, Grandmaster Luke Skywalker used the Force to instantly freeze every morsel, drop, and item, solid and liquid, in midair, as if trapped in time, only falling after Luke had consciously released everything within the room. Luke was able to knock down an AT-AT walker by pressing against it with the Force. He also absorbed the initial cannon blast from the AT-AT before deflecting the rest with his lightsaber. In combat, Luke was able to destroy a group of hot-wired battle droids just by waving his hand, subtly displacing their master servos and causing the self-destruction of the group of droids. This Force power was first manifested by Jedi Master Arca Jeth during the Great Droid Revolution. Even then, with proper instruction, it was a difficult power to manifest. However, this power apparently came very naturally to Luke. Similarly, during the Black Fleet crisis, Luke used the Force to rebuild Darth Vader's old fortress on Coruscant. Luke would later use the Force to crush the rebuilt fortress of Vader to rubble, shattering the building piece by piece and throwing it into the oceans of Coruscant. Still though, he used the Force to construct a literal castle. The Grandmaster was also frighteningly proficient in more personal applications of the Force. After being fatally wounded in the battle with the Singing Mountain Clan and the Night Sisters, Luke was able to instinctively heal himself in the span of mere hours. Luke's proficiency in Force speed allowed him to increase the speed of his lightsaber strike to the point of merely General Grievous, as seen during his duel with the Yuuzhan Vong Supreme Overlord. With the guidance from the voice of Ben Kenobi, Luke gave into the Force and found the time seemed to slow down considerably to him, allowing him to fight with dramatically enhanced reflexes. Luke describes the feeling as if he didn't feel in control of the power and instead felt as though the Force was guiding his actions. The same sensation that Obi-Wan Kenobi described when he actually managed to defeat General Grievous, giving himself completely over to the Force. Among other Force powers Luke had used under his disposal, he was particularly skilled in mental manipulation. During the incident known as the Eye of Palpatine, Luke subconsciously used his Force powers to overcome a particularly vicious form of brainwashing from the Sith Lord, able to easily siphon all of the information he was seeking from Palpatine. While searching for the kidnapped Solo children, Luke used the Force to create an illusion over his face in order to disguise his identity. He literally used the Force to make himself look different. He also used the Force to call all the Jedi from across the galaxy to Ossus to make the announcement of him taking on the role of Grand Master of the Order, and to issue his views about the role of the Order to his Jedi. But this isn't all of it. While he was recreating the Jedi Order and was searching for potential candidates, he walked on lava while still throbbing with the Force after defeating a fireworm living in the lava just moments before. But Luke wouldn't just bolster himself and his own powers, he had the ability to help others. During the battle at the Jedi Praxium, Luke used the Force to enhance his students engaged in battle. In the years before the Yuzhong Vong War, Luke also trained to overcome Force blindness caused by the Yassalamari, a species in the galaxy that basically gets rid of one's ability to use the Force, this being a task which some said to be impossible. During the early days of the Dark Nest crisis, Luke used the Force to generate a physical copy of Jade's Shadow in order to fool the attacking starships. This usage of the Force was so extreme, Luke burnt out, and his face was temporarily sunken and shriveled just like Palpatine. A year later, Luke applied the same trick, but by then, Luke already mastered the technique and was no longer burnt out by its effects. Right before the Battle of Fondor, Luke made the enemy see a fleet of starships, causing him to panic in front of his entire navy. Starships that obviously were not there, with this being one of the most impressive Force illusions in all of Star Wars. Just like Mace Windu, Luke was also able to detect shatter points, a rare ability that was only privy to one other Jedi in recorded history, of course that other Jedi being Windu. The ability of shatter points was one where a Force user could detect weaknesses in any person, structure, or even a scenario. It could also be used to detect moments in time when history was about to drastically change. He also used the rare and extremely powerful Force ability known as Force Light against Abeloth during their fight. Abeloth being a Force demon essentially. Force Light was an ability which created a blinding burst of light that could banish all traces of the dark side, and could even sever the connection between a Sith and the dark side itself. Arguably one of his greatest feats in the Force was when he telekinetically kept a black hole open during the Yuzhong Vong War. Luke Skywalker used the Force to manipulate a black hole, with this being one of his most popular displays that fans will point to when talking about the true power of Grandmaster Luke. Force ability wasn't all though, for Grandmaster Skywalker also possessed legendary skill with the lightsaber. Luke Skywalker particularly utilized Form 5 to gem So and Xian, though eventually he would create his own style that had traces of Form 5, Form 4, and Form 3, which he nicknamed Medium Style. Luke applied the very opposite of Dun Mok on board the second Death Star by infusing love into Darth Vader's heart through spoken words. As a reminder, Dun Mok was the dark side ability of weakening one's connection with the Force or goading them into rash action via insults or belittling words. However, his love for his father had him implant thoughts of positive conflict within the Dark Lord, and the young Jedi was successful, and Anakin Skywalker was ultimately redeemed, bringing balance to the Force. When he was Grand Master, Luke went against the grain, saying that compassion was one of the strongest key elements to mastering Form 4 lightsaber combat, a combat form that was typically associated with aggression. In the fight against Darth Sidious during Operation Shadow Hand, he rebelled against the Reborn Emperor. Luke fought Sidious 2 times. The first duel ended with Luke being defeated, although it must be noted he could still battle against Sidious despite the latter's overwhelming ferocity and versatility, as well as his immense dueling prowess, and far greater experience for a fair share of time. But in their final duel, boosted by Leia's Force Harmony, Luke stalemated and eventually triumphed over Sidious in a duel so intense that Leia could hardly see the movements of Luke as he engaged the Emperor, but she sensed titanic waves of power generating from them, from the Emperor the Dark, and from Luke the Light, which resulted in Luke's victory by slicing off the Emperor's hand. Later in the Yuzhong Vong War, Luke participated in the Battle of Artorias and defeated over a dozen Yuzhong Vong warriors. Luke's abilities with a lightsaber allowed him to fight his way through countless Yuzhong Vong warriors in the Sacred Precinct. After defeating numerous Yuzhong Vong warriors in Shimra's Citadel, Luke defeated more than 5 Slayers, while one of the other most powerful Jedi of the time was unable unable to defeat a single one. During Luke's exile, the Lost Tribe of the Sith sent out a strike team to kill the Grand Master. Despite being outnumbered, Luke fought his way through approximately 15 Sith, until only the Sith Lady Alaris Rhea and her apprentice, Vestera Kai, remained. Luke dueled the both of them and killed Olaris, only allowing the apprentice to escape so that he could track down her blood trail, leading him to the remaining Sith. Luke Skywalker is without a doubt one of the most powerful Jedi in history, but his powers in the Force and in combat wasn't everything, for his roots in the light side stemmed from his unwavering attitude. He lived and believed as a true Jedi, his motivations never born from emotionless, but from compassion. Luke drew his power from his compassion and love for his friends, family, and those who he truly believed in. Through Luke's kindness and willingness to help, he caused Mara Jade to cease wanting to kill him, and eventually the two of them fell in love and got married. The Grand Master led his Jedi Academy much differently than in the old ways of the Jedi, particularly in how the Jedi viewed attachments. He saw that the Jedi's aversion for attachments was one of the reasons for their eventual downfall, and Luke managed to reverse this by not only allowing attachments, but actively encouraging them. He encouraged his students to get married and have a family, so they had a source of strength for which to draw upon, as well as having more Force-sensitive children to be trained in his Jedi Academy. Luke Skywalker is without a doubt one of the most powerful Star Wars characters, if not the most powerful Legends character ever. So friends, what do you think of Grand Master Luke Skywalker? Do you think any of this will ever make it into live action? And in terms of in-depth look at characters' powers, who would you like to see next? As always, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.